Alrighty folks, so we have more experiment results to be going through today, and these are all focused on suppressing weeds. And so to provide a little bit of background context on this experiment, I use a lot of homemade compost throughout my garden. And while I do hot compost it, it doesn't kill off all of the seeds. And what this means is that come springtime, when temperatures get a little bit warmer, a lot of seeds germinate and begin to grow into volunteer plants, or as they're more commonly referred to as, weeds. And so that got me thinking, what's the best and natural non-spray method for suppressing weeds in the garden? And I knew that there was only one way to figure this out: with an experiment. So just under 2 months ago, I took a bunch of the compost that I would normally be putting directly into my garden beds, but instead I put it into 4 equal trays. Now I knew that there were already seeds in here, but just to make it even more clear and specific for this experiment, I also added 2 tablespoons of dill seeds to each tray. So now I knew that there would be hundreds of dill plants germinating in each tray. And lastly, to determine which weed suppression method would work best, I decided to try out and experiment with 3 different covers. So for the first tray, I did not put one of these covers on it. This is going to be our control so we can see how many weeds would be growing in my garden bed. For the second tray, I covered it with a straw mulch as the weed prevention tactic. And for the third tray, I covered it with landscape fabric. And for the fourth and final tray, I covered it with a polyurethane barrier, which is a practice called solarization. And so over the last 6 weeks, I've just had these trays sitting on my back deck, germinating, beginning to grow, getting all kinds of weedy. And I've got them right beneath the table here. And what we're going to do for the remainder of this video is pull each of the trays up, go through them one by one, make a couple of observations, and then at the very end, I'm going to share with you which one of the methods I'm going to be implementing in my garden moving forward. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not the one that you're going to think it is. So to get started, let's grab tray number 1 here. And keep in mind that this is our control tray. And as we can see here, there are tons of dill seeds that have germinated, as well as a whole bunch of other seeds that would have been in the compost before. And this is really exactly what I was expecting to be seeing with this tray, because I knew that there were a whole bunch of seeds in the compost, plus all of the dill seeds. And this is what I should be expecting to see in my garden. So anything better than this, I'm gonna be calling a win. Let's move this to the side and grab tray number 2, which is our straw mulch. And to be honest, I think this one might actually have even more seeds that have germinated in it than the control group. And so there's 2 interesting observations that I'm kind of making on that front. The first one is that for straw to effectively work as a weed prevention or suppression method, I think it needs to be significantly thicker. I'm talking like 3 to 4 inches in thickness. And the reason for that is because these seeds are really resilient. They're going to get some light coming through there, and that's all that they need in order to shoot up and begin growing towards it. And then the second observation is that I do think a greater number of seeds germinated in this, and that doesn't surprise me because the straw, it acts as a mulch, which means that it's keeping moisture in and around where the seeds are, which they would want in order to be germinating. So I actually think that there might have been more favorable environment conditions for these ones to be germinating than even in our control group. So if you've been using straw in your garden as a weed suppression tactic, let me know down in the comments and let me know how many inches you go with in order for it to be effective. I'd be super curious to hear that. Now, let's move on to number 3, which is our landscape fabric. And so as we can see here, there are no plants that have been able to poke through the landscape fabric, begin to grow, anything along those lines. And then when we peel back the landscape fabric, what we can see beneath here is that there is no growth whatsoever as well. And so what's actually happened here is that all of those seeds, they did germinate, but then they're basically trapped underneath there. The black landscape fabric was bringing in tons of heat, and they've all essentially just been scorched off and already decomposed into the soil. So super effective at preventing weeds from growing. And what's really cool about this is that if you wanted to run landscape fabric over top of one of your beds, you could do that and then just cut a hole in it where you're looking to transplant a plant into, and then it's going to be able to grow out from that hole, and there won't be any weeds anywhere throughout the garden bed there. And so now to wrap up, let's grab our 4th and final tray, which was our polyurethane cover, and let's get it up here. And so with this one, we can see as well that there are no weeds that have been able to grow through the polyurethane barrier. This is obviously completely plastic covered. There'd be no way for them to get through, but we can see just from looking at it that there's clearly some growth beneath the surface. And so when we now pull this one back, what I'm actually noticing is that all of those weeds have also germinated, and they are in that process of just dying off and decomposing into the tray. And I'd be very confident planting into this bed now and not worrying about any new seeds popping up, germinating, beginning to grow, because I'm pretty sure that they've all been fried from our solarization here. So which method am I going to be utilizing moving forward in my garden here? Well, believe it or not, I'm actually going to go with the control. And the reason why I'm going to be doing this is because I actually love weeding. It's something that I just love to do, spending 10 to 15 minutes in the evening, picking a bed, and just kind of pitter-pattering throughout, pulling out all of those weeds. I find it really just kind of like relaxing and soothing, and totally just like that peaceful side of gardening that you all know I love. Now, with that being said, there are a couple areas, such as my front slope here, that are completely overgrown with weeds. And what I think I might do this upcoming season is lay down landscape fabric on one side and then lay down the polyurethane barrier for solarization on the other. Effectively, I'm just going to extend this experiment as I'm curious to see how each of those do now in a real environment. And any weeds that do survive and manage to grow through, well, once again, I love weeding, so I'll be out there just pulling them out. But folks, that's everything that I wanted to cover off on for this video here. If you do have any questions, let me know down in the comments. If you've enjoyed this experiment and the video, then it would mean the world to me if you subscribe to our channel here. And if you want to check out some of our other videos on experiments, you can click on this tile right here to check out one that I just did on worm castings and how big of an impact it has on seed starting. I think you'll be pretty surprised by what I discovered in that little experiment. So folks, that's all for right now. Can't wait to catch you on the next one. Go get those hands dirty, and I'll see you soon.